it's the 500th episode. How could we have the 500th episode without Karen Nurse-Shera, former Minister of Finance, Attorney at Law? Good morning, Karen. How are you on this fine 500?
I am very fine and very honored and happy, actually, that you mentioned it to me yesterday. We always have these discussions before, just in case it doesn't just organically decide what we're going to talk about when we come on this show. We do discuss what we will be talking about. So he did mention it to me yesterday, and I feel very privileged and honored to be part of WESN and this show in the morning, which has gained a lot of popularity, not only popularity, but a lot of respect among the listening public.
Well, yes. The segue might be kind of harsh, but we have several topics to try to get into on this 500 episode, yes. So we want to get into it. Tobago, of course, we've spoken about it, including with the minority leader, but former Minister of Finance here with her political experience and opinion. We actually have not spoken to Karen about what's going on with the THA and the launch of the new party. You have kept up to date with what some of the commentators out of Tobago have said. And while I am reluctant to fully agree with them, I have to admit, I can't say that they're wrong. I don't have an argument to put in defense of Farley.
Yes, so one of the major, so he launched his party officially on Monday, I believe, and it's called Tobago People's Party, which in itself, I don't know if that was such a wise decision, because it seems to limit the scope. Thank you, Sean. The scope of the party to Tobago, which I don't expect that is what he intended or shouldn't have it intended. So that was one thing that worried me a little. Worried a little bit about that. But coming to the bigger picture, I have, it's early days, it's definitely early days as a party, it's just 2 days old, but certainly as Chief Secretary, when he is Chief Secretary for the last year, the commentary coming out of Tobago has not been very encouraging. So we're not going to spend too much time on it, because as Reginald Dumas, a very respected analyst, and has said, give him some time. And his time was 1 year, so we're going to give him some time. But some of the things that we are seeing, and which we should comment on, is the chamber, Donna Haddad, saying that little or nothing has been accomplished for the Tobagonians in terms of the economy and moving forward. And one of the promises that I understood that he made was that he would wean the Tobagonians off its dependency on the THA as a form of income and create independent sources of income. I don't know if you're seeing much of that, and that is very worrying. He's also said, which I do agree, and if you listen to the modern day economists and pundits, they are talking about taking instead of a top-down approach, is a down-up approach. And that is because, according to one of the shows I listened to 2 days ago, they've said that 65% of the global wealth is held by 1% of the person. So that is to give you an indication that he obviously wants to look at income inequality. To what extent has he been successful in dealing with the contractors? To what extent has he been successful in realizing the down-up approach? To what extent he has been able to wean persons off the THA and create a new paradigm for Tobago? The indications from Dr. Vaness James, where Donna Haddad has been extremely a little harsher as the head of the Chamber of Commerce in Tobago. And generally, even the naming the party, Tobago People's Party. The People's Party, fine. The Tobago are not too sure. So we'll give him time. One thing I would say that as a general criticism of Farley Augustine is this, his accessibility. I am not talking about how often he goes on the microphone and gives public pronouncements, because having been a politician myself, an active one at some time, your words will come back to bite you. So I understand maybe his kind of reluctance, but he doesn't have a good track record since becoming Chief Secretary and now the head of this party as being accessible to the public, and that is not a good look for someone who puts himself as the People's Party. And that's inconsistent with that. And I think there was one other issue that concerned me with Fahali, because I wish him the best. It's early days yet, but he does need to make himself more accessible. And with the issue with the contractors and also with the hotels. Having large hotels with brand names, who does that help? They keep us being the helpers, the cleaners, all the positions at the bottom of the barrel. And I think what the intention was to increase income inequality by focusing on the Airbnbs, the guest houses, and creating far more opportunities for the micro enterprises. So one of the things he could consider, and the TTMA has spoken on that, is whilst the government, for whatever reason, has not been able to meet the kind of VAT returns that they had intimated in the budget, certainly they should start with the Chow Kings. I don't know if they have VAT registration, but certainly the micro, which is not so micro as you might think, start paying them up so that they have liquidity, some level of liquidity to save their businesses, employ people, and move forward. The bigger companies might struggle, but it's not the same. So that's my take on Farley Augustine, not Farley Davison.
I think your first point, I didn't even necessarily think about it until you just mentioned it. And it's true that we all looked at the then PDP, anticipating to see what they would do in Trinidad. And now, you know, the supporters could just, all they have is to hope that the THA situation and Tobago situation could stabilize. I think Trinidad now is a distant hope.
Is there, and that's the thing, is there stability within the THA itself? Because it seems as though you're not able to organize yourself as a party. I mean, I don't know what the big delay is, because as you pointed out yesterday, the social media page for the new party is empty. Yeah. There's not even a symbol. But as you have said before in the program, the THA Act does not necessarily recognize party, it recognizes the individual. The issue, however, is given that you've campaigned collectively and given that you've all made promises on the same lines, and up until this point, I honestly cannot point to one improvement or one development that has taken place in Tobago which has caught my eye. With regards to accessibility, Karen, I completely agree with you. It has now become even difficult for us to keep in contact with the executives of the THC. And even though there is a media group of which we are a part of, even trying to have a discussion with those individuals has proven, well, those efforts have proven very few to this point where, listen, you know what, does it even make sense? And I keep pointing out, and I think I pointed out yesterday, I don't think they themselves have a clue as to what's going on and what's going on.
Unfortunately, that is becoming more and more of a...
And therefore, you know what, we're just taking it step by step.
Yeah.
And they don't have time.
The thing is, I disagree with regards to the need for him to go through this process, except he and all did not push back against the whole party thing, and he accepted it. So now he has to follow through with it because he accepted it. But
accepted what?
That he had to make a party, even though the THA Act doesn't need
to make a party. Yeah.
Well, to win the next election, I think that's
that's
Dr.
what
James'
politics
argument.
is about at the end of the day.
I do wish that we could move on.
Sorry, you're not a politician, but he's a politician.
I know.
Right? And at the end of the day, that's what politicians want, to be the leader.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And that's the reality. I mean, that's it. I mean, you can't get away from that. But
well,
anyhow.
I mean, there are also those allegations.
But let's wish him the best. Let's wish him the best. Let's wish him the best because as Reginald Demas, I don't know if the doctor is in front of his title. If it is, I apologize for not putting it in. But as Reginald Demas, who's clearly highly respected, he said give him some time. So I think we should do that because now it is a chaos. You said nothing has happened in the last year. Yes, a lot has happened. A lot of chaos and bacchanal has happened. And so now he needs to try to put it together. And let's give him some time.
This goes to the hopes of seeing new political entities. That's my fear, that this might sour the population.